The SlifT V2 by Machinewise is kind of the middle of the road Balisong by them. You can get a aluminum Balisong. There's the Prisma V1, the Prisma Pro, and you can get the grails that are either the Opus or the Serif. And so the SlifT is kind of in the middle. This is the SlifT with the Opus blade and has speed channels. There's also the SlifT blade, and I have also managed to finally disassemble my own Serif and try the Marin blade on it, though I did it off camera. The SlifT blade with the Opus, the SlifT handles with the Opus, clocks in at 4.13 ounces. So it's actually a bit heavier than the Serif. The Opus blade by itself weighs 1.23 ounces on my scale. The Marin, which is the same weight as the trainer, is 1.16, and the SlifT blade is 1.13 ounces. And so, in that order, Opus is the heaviest, then then the Marin blade, then the SlifT blade. I unfortunately don't have a Serif blade on the V2 platform. I only have a Serif V1. And if you've ever tried to put a Serif V1 blade on Marin platform handles, the handles slap comically. Anyways, let's talk about the SlifT. SlifT is pretty nice. It is a little blocky in the hands, and I do find that the handles aren't as comfortable as like the Serif or even the Prisma Pro, but they are still nice. It's not uncomfortable, I will say. It feels blockier even though they're actually like the same size. Currently with the speed channel, it sounds like this. I have not flipped it without the speed channel. Now as for how it flips, it is a little heavier than the other knives. I feel like all the other ones kind of clock in under 4 ounces unless you have medium weights like the brass weights. Like the Serif with Opus and medium weights is just over 4 ounces. However, this is like 4 point whatever I said earlier. So it does have a little bit more heft. The Opus blade, I will say, is currently my favorite configuration with no weights on the bottom. Unfortunately, I was not sent any weights on the bottom. I could have put some in, but frankly, honestly, it feels... The fact that the Opus being the heaviest blade feels really good without weights, I honestly am not convinced that you really need it. And this is the speed channel version too, so non-speed channel would be even heavier. So this is kind of like the heaviest, and it is sort of like the evolution of the Delta 50 kind of. There's also a SlifT V1, which is basically similar, but it has face jimping as well. And it's it's much rarer because there's like only 50 of them ever made. So the SlifT V2 is honestly like a very good standard flipping experience. I will say though that this version of the SlifT with the Opus blade costs... Oh, I forgot to add the anodization. This costs $505. It's a pretty penny. So I was comparing it earlier with the SlifT, the NRB SlifT, and if you have the SlifT blade, it costs $405. That's right. The Opus Tanto blade and the Drop Point Serif blade both cost $100 more than the recurve clip point SlifT blade. And the trainer is like $60 less than that. So if you were to get a trainer, which honestly feels really good, the Marin is equivalent to the trainer. While it doesn't have as much tip weight as the Opus, it still feels really nice. I just think the Opus feels better. However, the fact that the Opus costs $160 more might be a deterrent. So with a trainer blade, $345 for an anodized speed channeled version. Let's see, with no speed channel, what does it cost with no speed channel? What the heck? Oh, there's a full channel and a speed channel. So this might be full channel actually, sorry. So the full channel, $350. Okay, so it's just like $5 more. With no speed channel at all, it's $330, and with no anodization, it's $300 flat. So, and this is also unsharpened. So, with like the cheapest SlifT version you can get, trainer blade, no laser, no speed channel, and no anodization, It comes at $300. That's actually a pretty solid deal. And frankly, I think that is actually a really good price for this. This SlifT and the SlifT are like sort of like two ends sandwiching like that middle of the road option where you have titanium balisongs that cost more, like not too much more, but like I would say that the SlifT and the SlifT are like a good next level from a Kraken if you were just trying to get like standard flippers. That said though, Machinewise balisongs are kind of long. And the SlifT is, well, it's somewhat light. It's under 4 ounces. And it's very thin and feels small in the hand. So it's like sort of an imperfect comparison. I would still say compared to the Kraken, the Kraken kind of being the gold standard. They are a little different, but you might argue that they feel better. Now, again, when you get a live blade, though, it becomes significantly more expensive. The fact that the clip point blade is only like $60 more is pretty good. But that said, I so far haven't been crazy about the SlifT blade. The SlifT blade itself is fine. It just doesn't have a lot of tip weight. And so I find that the SlifT handles being kind of the heaviest, it just feels somewhat lacking. I also found that the SlifT blade didn't feel necessarily the best on the Serif handles either, but it's totally viable as both a flipper and also as like an actual blade. Anyways, though, it feels really good. I will say though, as much as I'm enjoying this flipping experience, I don't personally feel like I want to own my own SlifT enough. If I did, I would want the Opus blade or maybe just a trainer. The trainer is affordable, but the Opus blade just makes it a lot more. And also, if you were to get anodization, if you were to get laser work, if you were to get a speed channel, the speed channel does push up the price by like several dollars. And so it can get pretty expensive. So the fact that you can get a SlifT for as low as $300 with the trainer and none of the fancy bells and whistles, or over $500, it's quite a range. And I will say that if you were to get something at like $500, honestly, I might just save up and get a Serif. One of these days I'll flip an Opus, and I'll be able to review it, and I'll have basically reviewed every item on Machinewise's list, save for the dagger blade, and which isn't even currently available in the build your own. I haven't tried the Prisma Pro, but I have reviewed a Prisma V2. Anyways, the SlifT, if you were to get a trainer, I think it's worth it. Or if you were to get a second hand for like $350, I think that's pretty decent. But just be aware. Ouch. Just be aware that, if you were to get it through Machinewise itself, it can get expensive if you were to get laser engraving and all that jazz. But frankly, price to nice, the price to performance, the trainer definitely is the most value to the cost, being right at $300. If you were to get the Opus blade, which I think is the best flipping experience, compared to the trainer, it is $160 more. So your mileage may vary. That said, also with the trainer blade, you can get zippy inserts, and it might just honestly feel like the Opus blade. And the inserts are not that expensive, relatively speaking. It's like maybe $15-20 compared to $160 difference. Yeah. Anyways, as for the SlifT itself, depending on the blade you get, the Opus makes it feel very neutral, has a very nice momentum. I find that it fans beautifully and neutrally with the Opus blade, and the rollovers just feel really good. Honestly, again, I feel like I could have said more about the flipping experience. It just feels kind of standard. I do wish it was slightly more comfortable in the hands. I think there are handle inserts also that Zippy has, which would frankly make it more comfortable for me and my sensitive, delicate skin. But frankly, it performs basically anything I want it to, except when I'm fucking flipping like shit. Again, flipping like shit. Good thing I have carpet. Holy shit. Anyways, yeah. when I'm not flipping bad, it does everything I want it to, particularly this configuration. And it is really nice. So, if you have a Serif, I mean, they're different. I was like, what is the difference? And now that I've had it, I'm like, it's different enough that they feel different, but not so different that I feel compelled to own one. Again, when as an owner of a Serif, I feel like I have no reason to own a Prisma Pro / a Prisma V2. And the SlifT, while being different, it doesn't compel me enough to be like, oh yeah, this item feels different. The SlifT and the Nemesis feel quite different. I don't own a Nemesis anymore, but if I were to try a Nemesis V3, I would compare them. And there are other knives where the maker has made various tiers, like the LDY knives. I love the Cygnus and the Sirius and the Orion, and they're all different enough that I feel like there is merit to owning them all. However, the SlifT is not the same as the Serif, but frankly speaking, unless you find that the Serif is too light and of course too expensive, then you want a titanium knife because the Prisma Pro is aluminum, 70-75 aluminum for the Pro. I feel like the Prisma V2 and the Pro feel like a much more inexpensive version of the Serif. The SlifT feels different, and it is titanium, so maybe it is in that sweet spot. But frankly, unless you really want that like super standard flipping experience, I think there are more interesting live blades for the price. And I don't know. I think it's a very good knife, but I don't think I will ever own it. It has a bit of Triton syndrome, as I like to call it, where a Balisong is in that awkward middle spot, like the squid Triton, and it's like, well, why don't I just pay a couple more bucks? Well, in the Triton's case, it's like 40 more bucks for the squid trainer, or 20 bucks less for the Mako, because the Triton is just, it doesn't do anything special enough to really do anything for it. The SlifT is much better than the Triton, and the price gaps between above and below are much wider. So of course there is still very much merit to owning this. It is a perfectly fine knife. It is a very good knife, in fact. But that said, I don't see myself bothering to own one of these. And when I have the Marin platform, like if I were to own multiple blades, I would rather just have individual blades than getting different handles as well. Because frankly, I find that like the fucking Serif handles are so goddamn good. They sound amazing. I do need to get this like precision tune because there's a little bit of play, like a little bit more play than you'd expect for a Machinewise knife. Anyways, though, SlifT V2, quite nice. I do kind of want to own a V1 just for the collector's item element of it, but they are much more expensive. So anyways, thank you to Caden Rose for lending me his SlifT with Opus blade as well as with the SlifT blade. And thankfully I managed to disassemble my own Serif and try the Marin blade on it. And yeah, I finally have, I'd like to think, a pretty comprehensive opinion on the SlifT. If you were to get a cheaper version, I will say that maybe, I think this is the full channel. So the full channel with trainer is like 320 bucks, and I think that would be worth paying the extra $20 to get it milled out, because then it would affect the weight, and you can always take out the screw weights on the bottom. Anyways, thank you so much. Subscribe to my channel. I have videos also on the Serif V2 and the Serif V1 and the Sarin, and I have an unboxing video of the SlifT. So yeah, I've covered basically most of the Machinewise knives. I haven't tried an Opus yet. If you want to temporary trade me for an Opus, I can finally review one on the channel and like this video. So anyways, thanks for tuning in, and fuck and happy flipping, everyone.